So we have a couple of files to download for today. Trucklist.xlsx, which is, as the name implies, a list of trucks, and parser.cls. We'll talk about that kind of once you get it down. Now, so far, up until this week, everything I've taught you in this class, everything you've worked on in this class, kind of normal stuff. But as soon as we started working with web servers, using Internet Explorer to contact machines that other people own, they're just kind of out there on the internet, they're just kind of publicly available, we introduced the opportunity for you to break the law in a way that you may not be anticipating. And so I want to take probably half hour or so and explain to you the legal implications of doing automatic interaction with a web server. Because so much of what we do in programming feels like a private experience, right? You sit down, you got your computer, you write something, and there's no one looking over your shoulder. But as soon as you make a request to a web server, you have to give up your privacy in a way. Why? What do you have to give that web server so that you can receive the response that you're hoping to get? You have to send them your IP address. Whew. What IP address do you send Google when you make a request to Google? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
That's right. Yeah. It's not in fact, if you look at the IP address on that machine, you probably have a local IP address, starts with 10 dot something. That means any IP address that starts with 10 dot something is for like internal use. It's not public facing. It's just for use inside this organization. So what happens is when you send the request, kind of at the boundary of BYU, they say, someone is making a web request. We need to use a public IP address. And that's called a network address translator. It just says, 10 dot whatever your address is making this request. We're going to use one of our public IP addresses out there. It's going to be a 128.60 dot something number. And that's the public-facing IP address. And when the response comes back, the network address translator will say, I've gotten it back, and it will send it back to your address here in the middle. But the point is, you have to give some IP address to that server for them to be able to send the information back. Now, let's suppose that you were doing something that the web server, the owner of the web server thought, this is abusive. Whoever's asking for this information doesn't look like normal human activity, and I want them to stop. What can they do? What can they know immediately? First of all, every request you make to a web server gets logged. So they'll be able to go back, and how long the company keeps the logs is different, but usually at least a month. They'll be able to go back and say, this guy's been hitting our website, asking for thousands and thousands and thousands of pages, 24 hours a day for a week. What could they know immediately from your IP address? It doesn't take any effort. What could they know? Okay, well, they could look at the activity and say there's no human. No one can drink that much caffeine. This is a program happening. But what can they know from the IP address? Okay, so it takes a little more to get your location. They can do that, but they can immediately, with a simple lookup, they can find out who owns this IP address. Brigham Young University owns the IP address. So if they wanted to, they could contact Brigham Young University, provide all the information about these requests. These are the times these requests are coming through. Here's the IP address. Cut it out, Brigham Young University. You're doing something that we don't want you to be doing. Now, is Brigham Young University actually doing it? Well, no, it's you. Tell me your name. It's Marcus. Marcus is there, sending all this information. Can BYU Office of Information Technology track Marcus down? What do you think? Absolutely, because every time they do this little network address translation, that gets logged too. They can say, okay, this request going here, we got that log. Who had that IP address at that time? Oh, it was Marcus. Well, as long as you're on Eduroam, it was Marcus. If you're on guest, they might not be able to track you down. I'm not saying use guest. That's not the message you should be taking away from this conversation. But the point is, they could track you down. Now, could they even track you down on guest? They would have to really be serious about it, but they probably could. They're bright people, and I'm not positive. But especially if you are on guest and you logged into any university resource, so they authenticated that way, even though you're not authenticated on your connection, they could probably figure out who it was that was using the IP address at that time. So, and then what's BYU going to tell you to do? Cut it out. Hey, by the way, why do I know so much about this process? When I was a young, just newly minted PhD, my first professorship was at Tulane University, and it was 2001. And we were studying electronic markets, and we were curious to find out how fast do competitors respond to each other in electronic markets. You know, when a competitor raises the price, how did their competition respond to it? How long does it take for them to match that price? Now, all these questions we didn't know the answers to, and so I said, you know what, let's study the online book market. Online books, really easy. You know, a book is a book is a book. You got the ISBN number, it's the same book. We should be able to kind of track this. So I set out to say, let's do that. You know, and so I said, let's find a bunch of websites. And I didn't actually go to booksellers. Instead, I went to what were at the time known as price aggregators. I'm not sure what we call them today, but you can go to somewhere like, I'm not even sure people use these anymore. Used to be, there's a place called My Simon. Oh, like they do this a lot on Google. Like if you go to Google Shopping, it's a price aggregator. You look for something and they'll say, here's the product, you can buy it at these 17 different stores, and here's the price that it is at all these 17 stores. There should be lots of different aggregators like that. And so I was hitting about a dozen of them or so. You know, every morning at like 2 a.m., I had a fleet of web servers. I had 20 machines, each running 20 copies of an agent that would just collect the data as fast as it could from ISBN.NU or from MySimon or from AddAll, and were some of these price aggregators. Well, one of them, I forget who it was. It might have been AddAll. Actually, ISBN.NU. Are they still around? Someone go to ISBN.NU and see if you can, if it's a website that's still there, kind of giving you prices on books. I don't know. Anyway, they just stopped responding to any request from Tulane University. It was like, you know, we don't know what's going on over there at Tulane, but we're just going to stop answering. So nobody at Tulane University could get to I'm not sure they wanted to, but no one could get there because the web server just said, that's unusual traffic. We're just going to quit responding to it. In fact, I thought, oh, that website just closed its doors and went out of business. How interesting that I happened to be watching. Well, that's not what happened. They just quit responding to me. Then there was another one, it might have been AddAll, that actually sent a legal letter to Tulane University, alleging that I was doing all kinds of bad things, evil things. And I got a telephone call from the Office of Information Technology. Professor Allen, welcome to Tulane. You've been here for 3 months now, and already we're getting letters about your activity. So we kind of looked at what we were doing, and they said that we were alleged that I was, really abusing their servers and causing them to react slowly. So we did some analysis on the logs that I was keeping, and that really wasn't the case. But the point was, they didn't want me to be doing it. So much so, they got their legal counsel involved and sent a letter to the university. So the point is, this stuff is, and I didn't realize it, I was breaking the law. And I had no idea. And I suspect that you would have no idea that the stuff that we did on Monday would let you break the law pretty easily. In fact, we might have broken the law in class on Monday. What site did we go to on Monday? I don't remember. Oh, yeah, we'll look and see if we were breaking the law here, because we're getting stuff right here from the Tanner building. Probably be okay, but I can show you how you can tell. So I want to give you a little background on what those laws are. Oh, how old were you in 1996? Oh, tell me your name again. Marcus. Marcus, you're going to be our example for today. Back when Marcus was 2, the internet was still pretty new. There was a company that thought they wanted to be the main provider of internet auctions. Have you heard of this company? It's called eBay. How many of you heard of this company? Yeah, most of you have heard of this company. And so, but at the time, 1996, it was not clear that eBay was going to be the dominant provider of auctions. Well, we thought, who knows what's going to happen here? They were looking pretty strong at the time. In fact, they were the strongest, but there were other competitors. Ubid was out there. And there were a couple of other auction houses that are, trying to compete. Another small startup company, not that in 1996 eBay was small, but another startup company in Silicon Valley called Bidder's Edge. Have you heard of them? No. That may tip my hand as to who's going to win in this legal battle that I'm about to tell you about. Bidder's Edge said, well, you know what? Here's our business model. We are going to write programs, web bots, they're called robots, like we wrote in class on Monday. We'll go to eBay and just collect all the information. What's this next auction number? We'll just go auction number, 9,944. See what it is. Let's get auction number 9,445. We'll just see what it is. We'll pull that information down. In fact, they even said this, their little slogan was, we'll give you a better look at eBay than eBay. It turns out eBay was not a very good site. It still isn't. Visually, it's not that visually pleasing, and the information is not that well organized. Bidder's Edge said, we're going to let you search for stuff on eBay better than you can search by going to eBay. We're going to make a copy of eBay. We'll keep it current, and so you can come here and get all the information. Now, if you're eBay, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about another company coming along and saying, we're going to take a copy of your site, and we're going to show this information, all this information, to your potential customers? What do you think? You like it or you dislike it? Let me tell you why you should like it. Here, you've got, Bidder's Edge making a request, this information, and now we've got hundreds or thousands of users coming to Bidder's Edge, and Bidder's Edge is shouldering the load. They're handling all that traffic. They're not selling anything. Ultimately, they've got to send the people over to our site to buy it. There's a lot to like about that. What's to dislike? What is to dislike? I'll tell you what's to dislike. Let me give you a little more information. You can tell me if you dislike this. When you searched for a particular thing, say you searched for a carburetor from a 1962 Cadillac, and you're searching for that on Bidder's Edge, they'll show you where you can get it at eBay. They'll also show you where you can get it at UBid. So it's not just eBay. We'll show you any auction site that lists with us, or that we'll show you anywhere that's selling that thing. Now, what do you dislike about it if you're eBay? Yeah, it kind of brings parity to their competitors, right? So they want to be the place that you go for an auction. By the way, why do they want to do that? Any of you sold stuff on eBay? You kind of been an active seller? Every once in a while, eBay, just like, I never have. I have friends that have, would sell like $10,000 or $20,000 worth of stuff, on eBay a year. And every once in a while, what do? How do they make their money? By the way, how does eBay make their money? Not shipping. But you might say that's how the seller on eBay makes their money, on shipping. eBay doesn't make a dime on shipping. Yeah, it's listing fees. It's seller's fees. And every so often, eBay just says, oh, you know what? We're doubling the seller's fees. 4% is going to be 8% now. There's an uproar. And then they'll say, okay, 6%. Okay, 6%. And, but what happens if you double your listing fee? What if there's another company out there that has all the eyes and will list and shows UBid stuff right along eBay stuff? If you're a seller, you're starting to think, yeah, maybe I'll go to UBid. They only charge 2%. And now I'm going to be paying 6, or 7% here at eBay. So, and eBay realizes this, that if they're not the place where people come, they're not going to be able to be dominant, and they won't be able to control their main revenue stream, which is sellers' fees. So, they look at all this traffic that UBid, that's hundreds of thousands of requests a day. They're looking at this traffic that's coming from Bidder's Edge, and they go, look at this. It's coming from these 17 different IP addresses. All this stuff comes from only 17 IP addresses. What do? They just stop responding to those 17 IP addresses. Well, let's suppose you're Bidder's Edge. What do? Marcus, what would you do if you're Bidder's Edge? I'd change some IP addresses. That will make you change the IP addresses every 5 minutes. We got different IP addresses. We'll find someone to give us IP addresses, and we'll just kind of rotate through. That's exactly what they did. And they kind of went back and forth with these technological ways to stop them from doing what they want to do, and they kept finding ways around it to be able to get the information that they wanted. So finally, eBay said, great, we're just going to sue them. And so they filed, I can't even remember if it's the circuit court or the district court. The ninth district court is the one that's in San Francisco. We would cover Silicon Valley. Sued them in the federal court. The district courts are federal courts. We have anyone who's familiar with the law here? No? Okay, anyway. There'll be someone on YouTube that will no doubt correct me on the comments on this. So they sued Bidder's Edge, and they alleged 3 violations. 3. They said, number 1, you got to cut this out because you're in breach of contract. We had a contract. What was the contract? Contract was, let's go to a place like Walmart. Whoops, Walmart.com. And they said, way down here at the bottom of the page, if the page will ever come. Come on, Walmart.com. What am I going to find way down at the bottom of the page? I'm going to find the terms of use. Well, if it ever comes. It's like a legal document that says, if you use this site, you agree to be bound by these terms, right? And part of those terms at eBay said you're not going to use automated means to interact with our site. And so they said, step one, you are you are in breach of contract. They said, step number two, here's terms of use. They said, second thing you're doing wrong is you are violating our copyright. This is all our information, and you're violating the copyright by displaying it to other people. And not only that, you are trespassing. You're trespassing on our servers. These are the three things that they alleged in the lawsuit. And so Judge White, who gets the case, kind of looks at it and says, first question, breach of contract. What do you think? Anybody here taking business law? This connection just looks terrible. I'm not getting anything. What do you think? This is, in fact, it probably says here that you agree. Let's see. These terms of use govern your access to this. Let's see if it says agree. A-G-R-E-E. Terms of use. If you violate or do not agree to these terms of use and your access is unauthorized, let's look for contract. Buyers, contractors, shipping contract, trick liability. I'm not sure that Walmart makes this claim, but many sites say that your use of the site constitutes agreement to be bound by this contract. What do you think? Does it? Is that a valid contract? You still have to take business law to graduate from this place? Yes or no? Is it a contract? It says right there, if you use this site, you agree to be bound by the terms. The answer is no, that's not enough to make a valid contract. What do you have to have a valid contract? You've got to have mutual assent. You have to both agree to it. They don't even know if I've read the thing. How can I possibly agree to it? Have you ever read the terms of use? You can't be bound by them. There's no contract because you've never read them. What is it? There has to be consideration, right? There has to be something of value given on both ways. There may be something of value given. I'm not sure what it is, but clearly there's no manifest assent or no mutual assent, and so there can be no contract. And so Judge White said, he said, your claim about this being breach of contract, no. We're not even going to talk about that, clearly not now. If the case had been brought in the state of Washington, it's different state law, and that might have been considered a valid contract in Washington. Same thing with Virginia. There's different levels. I think those two, Washington and Virginia, you might be able to say, be bound by that, but not California, certainly not Utah. So they look at the second, Judge White looks at the second one, and he says, copyright. And he doesn't even spend very long thinking about copyright at all, because there's no violation of copyright here. In fact, this actually goes back to a Supreme Court case, probably happened before you were born, 1991. How many of you have ever seen a telephone book? Any of you seen a telephone book? Yeah. So it used to be telephone books were a big deal. You needed to contact somebody, you got to look their number up in the telephone book, and we'd sell advertisement. They would just give these things away. All the money was made by selling advertisement in the telephone book. And they were, for years, for decades, they were only ever printed by the telephone company. And then some other guys got the idea, you know what? We could print the telephone book. We'll just copy all the numbers and names, and we'll sell our own advertising. We got these kind of official, the real yellow pages, they was got to get the real yellow pages. And there's other people, making the Donnelly yellow pages or whatever. And so it was kind of this competition. It goes to the Supreme Court, alleging that these competitors that just start printing the yellow pages or printing the telephone book, they were violating the copyright. I mean, the telephone company owns that information and they're violating it. The Supreme Court was very clear on this. It's not a 5-4 decision. I forget what it was, but it was not like this is a close decision. It was like, oh, no. Facts. The fact that Marcus has a telephone number and what that number is, that's a fact. That belongs to the world. You cannot copyright a fact. You can copyright some kind of creative expression. You make up a story, you can copyright that. You write someone's name and telephone number in a particular way that's really fancy. You can copyright that. But the fact belongs to the world. There's no ownership of the fact. And so the Supreme Court case, Feist versus Rural Telephone Company, is clear. You can't copyright facts. Now, if Bidder's Edge was taking images the way that eBay displayed the information and displaying it the same way, that could be a violation of copyright. There's some artistic expression in the way that they was not good artistic expression, but it doesn't have to be good art for someone to own the copyright to it. If they were duplicating that could be a violation of copyright, but they weren't, right? They were taking the facts out, and they're saying, we'll give you the facts in a better way than eBay does. So it's not a violation of copyright. Judge White gets to, so 2 down, 1 to go. Judge White gets to the third one, trespass. And he goes, trespass? This is interesting. Now, they're not alleging trespass. The way you normally think about trespass, you think about trespass to real property, right? There's a fence somewhere, barbed wire across the top, and there's a sign that says, no trespassing. And if you just walk onto that property, you'd be trespassing. If you're given notice, there's no trespassing allowed here, you walk on that, that's not what they were doing. This was not trespass to real property, it's trespass to chattel. What's a chattel? Chattels are movable, ownable property. That bottle is a chattel. Marcus, your computer, your shoes are a chattel. That notebook is a chattel. The phone, the earphones, that water bottle. Chattel. It turns out cattle are chattel. If you can move it and own it, it's a chattel. And so it says trespass to chattel. It says this is interesting. It says I'm not sure, by the way, the common law for trespass to chattel goes back hundreds of years. This is law that goes way back. He says, listen, there's 2 things that has to happen for trespass to chattel. Number 1, it does not matter how long or how longingly I look at Marcus's computer here. I haven't trespassed on it. I cannot trespass on the chattel until I make contact with it. As soon as I make that's one of the requirements. For trespass to chattel, there has to be contact. But contact's not enough. You also have to be dispossessed of the owner, or the rightful user has to be dispossessed of the chattel because of the contact. So now, I'm touching Marcus's computer. Those of you who can't see over there, you just believe. I'm touching Marcus's computer. Has he been dispossessed of the chattel because of the contact? No, because he can still do whatever he wants to with it, right? Now, what if I did this? Now, has he been dispossessed of the chattel because of the contact? I haven't sold it. All he has to do is ask. I'll give it right back to him. Has he been dispossessed of the chattel because of the contact? Yeah. Okay, so, Marcus, thank you. You could sue me now. I've trespassed on your chattel. So that's the 2 things that it takes. Judge White has some thoughts to make on this. But by the way, what's my liability? I just broke the law. I just broke the law right here in front of class. What's my liability? I mean, what could I be in trouble for? What's the term for what I could be in trouble for? Damages. Who said it? Good for you. Damages. So we'll say, he's going to sue me. He's alleging damages because I trespassed on his chattel. You say, I am out some amount of money, or there's some value that I'm out, and we're putting a dollar figure on it, and that's what I'm suing you for. What do you think? What was the value that he was out because of the trespass? Nathan, what do you think? Put a dollar figure to it. You saw what I did. Put a dollar figure to it. 30 cents, that's high. I think that's really high. But still, your point is, it's not much. That wasn't much. He wasn't even trying to type on it. He was enraptured with the lecture. He's just listening. But that's it. Yeah, what's the damage as a result of the tortious behavior? Okay, so now Judge White is thinking about this, and he says, contact. First thing, there's got to be contact. Now, where are eBay's servers? You've trespassed on our, Bidder's Edge, you have trespassed on our servers. Where are those servers? I don't know, they're probably somewhere in Silicon Valley, inside a server farm. Did someone from Bidder's Edge walk in and physically touch the server? No, they're not alleging that. They made a request to it. Here's what Judge White said. Judge White said, when you make a request from your computer off to another web server, when you push that button on your computer, it starts a chain reaction of either photons over fiber optics or electrons over a wired network, or over a wireless network. I don't know what it is, but there's some physical chain reaction that ultimately bumps into the network card on the server. And he said, that might satisfy the common law requirement for contact. So he says, maybe contact is there. How about dispossession? What do you think? Is someone who owns a web server dispossessed of that server because of the contact of a request that's made? Yeah, not very much. But when you make a web request, a couple things happen. As a matter of course, number one, that web request gets logged. And so that's going to consume hard disk space that I can't use for something else because that just got logged. And number two, it takes processing cycles to be able to say, what are you after? And send that information back. And so, yeah, those are cycles that I can't use for something else. And so he says, maybe the requirement for dispossession has been met when you send a web request. So this question about trespassing on someone's server because you make a web request to it, he says, oh, this is kind of interesting, but he says, but wait a minute, eBay, the very fact that you plugged that server into a public network says you are inviting the contact. If Marcus had said to me, Professor Allen, you may touch my chattel anytime you please, and I touch the chattel, am I trespassing? No, consent, he's given consent. And so he says, no, I think that the fact you plug this into a public network, you have invited the contact. And if you invited the contact, it can't be trespass. Aha! But then he said, it could be possible for someone to revoke the consent, revoke the implied consent. I mean, after Marcus told me I could touch his chattel, he might say, oh, Professor Allen, it's kind of creeping me out when you touch my chattel. Don't touch my chattels anymore. Right? He could revoke that consent. And he said, how might a company revoke the consent? I mean, the implied consent, when you plug into the public network, how could we revoke that consent? And he said there's two ways that you might revoke the consent. And the question is, had eBay revoked the consent? And he went and looked in two places. Number one, terms of service contract. Let's make that number two. Instead, I'm going to look at number one. I'm going to come back to Walmart.com / robots, robots.txt. Robots.txt is a file that you will find, if it's there, it doesn't have to be there, it's there quite often. It will be at the root directory of the server. So walmart.com / robots.txt. Pick your favorite website and go there and just put / robots.txt and just see what it says on it. Robots.txt is written in a standard called the SRE, the Standard for Robot Exclusion. It is basically a file that we say, listen, if you're going to be a good player here on the internet, when you come to interact with this website automatically, you should start by asking for the robots.txt file. And then look at that file, because this file will tell you where you're allowed to go. You're going to work with my server automatically. Here's how you do it. And so let's just see what this says. The first like 6 lines that we have here, by the way, why does Walmart even allow anyone to work with their website automatically? Why not just say, no one's allowed to work with my website automatically? All we want is people looking at this. Why doesn't Walmart say that? Yep. So the comment is, maybe we've got companies that we want them to come here maybe we want to let them kind of query our database. And the answer to that is typically no, because when Walmart wants to come here to do that, it'll give them access to the API. So here's a way that doesn't pretend like you're a human. This is a much more efficient way for your computers to talk to our computers. So it's probably not because we want people to be able to query our prices. There's a big reason. Other thoughts? Yeah. Google. Yeah. It's because, by the way, when you do like a search, you're curious to find out whatever you're looking for, and you press that search button on Google, and it says, we found 4.7 million pages that meet your request in 0.3 of a second. How can they search the whole internet so fast? And the answer is they don't, right? They have programs that just run all day, every day. And what do? It's called Googlebot. It's a program that just goes to a web page, and it says, take all the text that's on this page and index it so we can search it fastly on our own. We'll store all the text ourselves so we can search for it, and then find all the links and follow those links. That's all it does. Go to a page, index the text, follow the links. When it follows the links, it goes to the page, it indexes the text, and follows the links. They're sometimes called crawlers. Have you heard of them? They just go from page to page to page to page, pulling all this information in. And so Walmart says we want people to be able to search Google and find out about our stuff. So there's certain kind of content that we want. And so we're going to kind of give you the rules. In fact, so much so that they said, listen, we're going to start off by giving you a sitemap. We're going to tell you how to figure out how to interact with our site. It's all meant to be read by computer. And so that's what this first part is. But now we have some stuff that's disallowed. And this says user agent everybody. This doesn't matter. This is not just for Googlebot. It's not just for Yahoo Bot or whatever other programs out there. This is for everybody. And it says we're going to disallow URLs that start with walmart.com /0/. I don't know what's there, but you're not allowed to interact with it in an automated way. Same thing with this one. This one makes sense too. Account. Look, if it's Walmart.com/account, these are people's accounts, don't be going there. There's nothing for you there. This is the rule. We're telling the rules. We are revoking any consent that you may have implied by the fact that we plugged into the internet for you to automate to work with this, in an automated way. We are revoking that consent. API, by the way, this is where Walmart would send folks that they want to automatically interact with their systems. What's behind the API? What else? Customer service. We don't want you looking at our customer service. Anybody, you can't do that. And so here is where you revoke it. And Judge White looked at the robots.txt file for eBay and said, sure enough, it's revoked. Yeah, and so what does White do? He issues a preliminary ruling. He says, okay, Bidder's Edge, you got to stop what you're doing. There are real legal questions. It's not about trespass. It's not about breach of contract. It's not about copyright. But the question of trespass, there are substantial legal issues here that we got to work through. I don't know if this is trespass, but it might be. And so you got to stop. An injunction. You stop until we get this resolved. What happens to Bidder's Edge when they're no longer allowed to send requests to eBay? Yeah, they dry up and blow away. And so how did this case, eBay versus Bidder's Edge, actually resolve? What's the resolution? Settled out of court. Terms of the settlement agreement, sealed. We don't know. But have you heard of Bidder's Edge? Who won? Clearly, eBay is the legal victor here. Now, so interesting. So there's these questions we say, we don't know. These questions were not answered by this case. However, this case becomes the precedent that is used by other cases with real rulings. And this idea now of trespass to chattel is like the law of the internet. That's how we say, are you allowed to interact with our servers? We're going to prevent you from doing it. And what law is it? It is trespass to chattel. How do we tell you that you're not allowed? Right here in the robots.txt file. Now, what if there's no robots.txt file? Anybody go to a website that didn't have a robot.txt file? I did a study on this in about 2000, 6, 7, or 8, and only about 25% of the top 500 most popular websites even had a robots.txt file. I think it's probably more now. But not everyone does. So what if it doesn't have a robots.txt file? What's the second place you have to look? Terms of service. And so the terms of service will tell you that. So let's look at this. Let me just look for robot here. Robot. Oh, you know what? I didn't want to search Walmart for robot. I wanted to search the text file for robot. Okay, so what does this clause say here? In connection with the Walmart sites, you will not use any robot, spider. Why do they call it a spider? Because it crawls the web, like a spider crawls the web, goes from site to site. Site search, retrieval application, or other manual or automatic device to retrieve, index, scrape, data mine, or otherwise gather any materials or reproduce or circumvent the navigational structure or presentation of the Walmart sites without Walmart's express written consent. Wait a minute. Their robots.txt just said there's lots of places you can go. And what does this say? Not only does it say you agree not to use any robot or automated retrieval, what else does it say you're not allowed to do? You can't get data from any of the Walmart sites by any manual means. What are they actually saying here? You're violating this every time you point your browser to walmart.com. It's like a bizarre to me. Try to keep some lawyer happy so that if we ever want to sue somebody or, do anything with them in court, hey, you agreed to this. You agreed not to do it. To me, it's absolutely bizarre. Almost always, if there's no robots.txt file, the terms of use is going to say whatever you're doing is not allowed. So you hope that there's a robots.txt file. Hey, let's go look where we were last week. Where was it? Marriott.byu.edu. And robots.txt. Okay. So there's a sitemap. Disallow billable, MS admin, profile, stacker, tracker, and I think we were at Marriott.directory. And directory is not disallowed. And so what we did was, okay, they had not revoked the implied consent or the consent that we could infer from them being connected to the internet. So what we did was okay. Yep.
So I was looking through the Facebook Robots.txt, and it says that a lot of the things allowed are like facts and
Let's take a look at the question. The question has to do with Facebook.robots.txt, facebook.com/robots. So Ajax. So what does this mean? So what this means is that any URL that starts with facebook.com or www.facebook.com. Anyway, facebook.com. Actually, what that really means is facebook.com, because that's the page that I'm at right now. /Ajax. Anything below that, they're saying we don't want you to go to. Now, what is Ajax? Ajax stands for AJAX, Automated JavaScript something. I don't know what it stands for. But Ajax is an approach for sending like information, like not getting a whole web page, but just getting a part of a web page, just making a separate call back in. This is not saying you're not allowed to work with Ajax here. It's saying you're not allowed to get anything below the folder that is walmart.com/Ajax. So it's not talking about technology. It's talking, this is always a path where you're not allowed to go to. Okay? What's that? Oh, yeah. This one says Applebot is not allowed to go here. This one says whoever that is, Bade US Spider, Bade US Spider. You're not allowed to do this. That's a Chinese company?
Yeah.
BingBot. I guess this is the one that does the Bing search engine. Googlebot is what you're allowed to. Googlebot Image. Here's a different one. There's a bunch of them here. I'm headed there. Just want to make sure I don't skip anybody on the way. Applebot's got a different, oh, by the way. So now they said that's all disallowed, but now here's an exception. Applebot is going to be allowed to go to Ajax bootloader endpoint. It can go there, but nowhere else underneath Ajax is it allowed to go. See how it works? Now, there's probably going to be a star down here. Here we go. Oh, look at this. Oh, wow. Everybody else, go away. That's what they're saying here. So if we were to do something that pulled information from Facebook, they are expressly saying you have no consent to touch our chattels here. Yeah, interesting. I have never looked at Facebook.com. This is a great one. I'll probably use this one in the future. So the question is, well, so what does that mean? What it means is that if you do write a program to automatically get anything from Facebook, you're breaking the law. You're trespassing on their chattels. No, hold on a second. I'm not going to, no, so what does that mean? Am I telling you not to do it here? Ah, boy, I'm making a recording. I'm a professor at BYU. I probably should tell you not to do it. But if you decided to do it, what would be your liability for breaking that law? Is it criminal? Is it a criminal offense? No, it's tortious behavior, so a civil offense. And so what are you liable for? What's the word? Someone said the word over here earlier. What is it? Damages. What is the damage? What is Facebook out because of the requests that you made? And so, yeah, they would have to say because of these requests that you made, there's a certain amount of money that we're out because of that. You made requests that we said you shouldn't make. You're trespassing on our chattels, and there's damages as a result. By the way, what did Judge White say anything about the level that I don't know what the real answer is, but I can tell you, what Judge White said. The level that Bidder's Edge was doing, hundreds of thousands of requests a day. Were there damages there? And Judge White said this level of request is not significant. So, even at large volumes, the amount of money that you're talking about in terms of the damages are not big. But if, so step one is, yeah, you really are breaking the law to do that. So if who is this? If Facebook decides we don't want you to do this anymore, what's their next step? Well, there are technical things they could do that probably wouldn't work so well. But their next legal step then is to get an injunction against you and to say, hey, you're breaking the law, cut it out. And so can you then just say, no, I'm going to keep breaking the law and I'm going to pay you damages? Will that work when you have an injunction? No. Because once you have an injunction, if you break it, now that is a criminal activity, violating a court injunction. And so, yeah, so that's the way it goes. Does this seem like it's a very efficient way to be able to kind of police the internet this way? No, and you shouldn't expect it to be. Trespass to chattel goes back hundreds and hundreds of years, and it just happened to get applied this way, and we've kind of inherited it, and that's where it is. So, let me tell you another story. So, did I tell you that I actually got those letters I was talking about? I got those letters at Tulane. Did I mention that? Yeah. So when I was a new researcher, I actually had, cease and desist letters about my activity sent to Tulane University. I might have mentioned that. Anyway, a little bit before this, while I was a doctoral student, my office mate, doctoral students at the same time, I was collecting data on book prices. He was collecting data on auctions at eBay. And he published a paper, and it got some little bit of exposure. Somehow there was a connection. He went and made a presentation pretty high up to a group of people at eBay, saying, listen, this is what we're studying. We're trying to understand electronic markets. They're still pretty new here in the late 90s. We're trying to understand them, and we're just asking for permission to do what we're doing. They talked about it for about 3 minutes, and they said, absolutely not. We are not going to give you permission to study us. And, it's kind of bad news. He was there, kind of being very forthright about it, how he got, kind of high-level access into eBay to even ask the question. I don't know. But he told me this. He said, after the meeting was over, one of the people that was in the meeting came to him, he's still on eBay campus, came to him and said, listen, Dr. Wood, if we haven't noticed what you're doing and turned you off already, we're not going to notice what you're doing. He was saying, we can't formally tell you it's okay, but listen, there's kind of a threshold at which we say that kind of automated interaction is okay. If it rises above that threshold, we'll take steps to stop you from doing it. And so even though we kind of labor under this kind of strange, archaic law that says this is the law that really governs this, it is, in terms of practice, the general sense is as long as you're thoughtful about what you do and you don't become abusive, then just go ahead. Realize you really are creating a liability for yourself. Liability is damages. And the damages are tiny, they're itty-bitty. And it's really not about the damages that governs it, it's about the ability to say you really are violating the law and now we have an injunction to get you to stop. That's really where the leverage comes in. And so the sense is be a good citizen on the internet and don't attack people's servers in such a way that they even notice you and you'll be okay. Question?
You're actually blocking the server and make other use of the server worse. But there's a side on the example that we're actually losing business or food. So what does the law say about?
Yeah, okay, so the question, let me just repeat the question. So there's two issues here. One is if your activity on the site is actually making it hard for other users to use the site, that could be a problem. And there's kind of nothing about that I've really been talking about. Bringing the level of use up to so high that it's making it hard for other people to get use. That's what we would call like a denial of service attack. And there may be other laws besides just trespass to chattel that influence that. Your second question is, what about for eBay, where they're saying we don't want you to use this, this approach that you're using because we want to have the eyes. We don't want you to be able to take other people's eyes away from us. And the answer is essentially what happens is eBay says you're breaking the law by trespassing on our chattel. We're not going to sue you for the damages because it's an insignificant amount, but we're going to use the fact that you're breaking the law to get a court injunction against you to say that you have to stop. If you continue after that, you're in real trouble. But if you can continue kind of up to that,
On my, not because of physical damages or people not access.
That's right.
Because of my business.
We don't have to. There doesn't have to be any physical damages. There doesn't have to be anyone else saying, "Hey, I can't access the site the way you're doing it." It's enough to say that you made a request to this server, and we had to process your request, and your request is unwelcome. We have notified you that your request is unwelcome, regardless of any other effect that it has. The fact that you made my server respond to your request when we told you not to do it, that's enough for us to be able to say to go to court and to be able to say we're getting an injunction against you. That's the mechanism. Okay, So yeah, so I really have given you the ability to break the law in a way that you may not have anticipated, and so I wanted to give you that background. All right, so looks like we're okay. We've got a few more things to learn in terms of technical ability, but that's the legal background. Any other questions? Yeah, question here. So why is Expedia okay? Yeah. So there's a good question. So what does Expedia do? Expedia goes to like all these other places where you might buy plane tickets from Frontier Airlines or Delta Airlines or whatever, and they get this information and they aggregate all that information to one place. You answer the question. Why is that okay? Well, yeah, it's because there's consent. It's because Delta says, great, we would love for you to be able to put our prices right up there. By the way, who doesn't? Of the major airlines, who doesn't give consent? Do you know? Yeah, Southwest just says, no, we're not going to give you consent. And so Southwest's prices aren't included there. Yep. There's a couple other questions? No? Question here? So the question is, how common is this? User agent, everybody disallow everything. That's unusual. Yeah, usually there's some level that we're saying, we don't even know who you are, we're going to let you have access, some access. We're going to allow some kind of access. So this is really a pretty long one, but yeah. It's kind of common too to say, well, I wouldn't say it's really all that common, but to say we don't want anyone to have any access at all, right? So it's saying we don't, what we're doing here, we don't want indexed. We just want to be able to send our customers here, and we don't want anyone else to find this place. And so that would be the kind of the main reason that you would see that. This is really interesting that Facebook is saying we're allowing very specific agents, Bing bot, Google bot, whoever else, otherwise you're not allowed to index this. There's a question here?
What if you did like facebook.com/photo?
If I went there? Oh, okay, here's a good question. So what if we tried to go to this place that's disallowed? If I just go there with a browser, I can totally go there. That's the whole point, right? I want to be able to go there, but I don't want automated interaction. Well, could I write an agent that would actually go to that page? The answer is yes. I write the agent, it goes there and it gives me the information. This is, all this file does is this is how Facebook says, I'm revoking any consent that you may have inferred. Any consent for contact that you may have inferred by me being connected to the internet. It is not a technological barrier. Right? If Googlebot wanted to ignore this and go and get all that information, there's no technical reason they couldn't do it. Right? It's up to Google to look at this and say, oh, I'm not going to go to these different places anywhere else I'm allowed to go to. Question here? Let me just restate the question. Well, the question is, if I was to write a bot, just using Excel the way we did it, to automatically go to my account and to pull my information down about who my friend list is that against the law? And the answer is yes, because you're trespassing on Facebook servers. Now, the fact is, right here is what makes it against the law, is that you have a reason to think because Facebook is connected to the internet, they've invited the contact. But here's where they have revoked that implied consent and said, no, you're not allowed to do that. Yeah, interesting, huh? And why? You think about that. Why do they want you to go look at it yourself rather than have a program go pull that information off? It's your data. Why? Ads. It's ads. That's exactly right. Okay. We're going to have to hurry. So, other questions, though? This is interesting. Go ahead.
It's like a public server, like
Yeah, so the question is, what if it's like a public server or something? And the answer is, we're going to be working with a public server today. Let's just take a look at it. Where's our date? Right here. Oh, it's actually in, let's go ahead and open up trucklist.xlsx. So the U.S. Department of Transportation says, if you're going to be transporting anything across state lines, you got to register with us. And we keep information about you, including telephone number, who's the owner of the business and that kind of thing. And so that's what we have here. And so we've got the data here. It's now your job to bring in the telephone number, and if it exists, the fax number for all of these folks. How many do we have here? Not quite 1,000 different trucking companies. I have given you a URL that may be of help. So let's go take a look. So there's the URL. It'll allow you to drop in a U.S. Department of Transportation number, which you have. There's the US dot number. And be able to look that company up. So let's go ahead and ask, what do these guys say about automated interaction? I feel pretty bad if this says you can't do it because we're going to do it. Oh, no, it doesn't say it at all. This is interesting, though. This says user agent speedy. So here's a specific user agent. You got to have a crawl delay of 60 seconds. 60 seconds between page requests. But accessing the data here automatically is okay. Just if that's your user agent, 60 seconds. If you're MSN bot, 60 seconds. If you're Slurp, 60 seconds. If you're anyone else, 60 seconds. That's your tax dollars at work there. You want to make sure we got this all specified out. So everyone's supposed to wait 60 seconds between requests. Okay, good. So what we're doing is not illegal as long as we build that delay in that says, get this one, wait 60 seconds, get the other. Would I still do that? Oh, I got 1,000 of these. Might I still comply with that? Sure, let it run overnight. Set it to run. I'll go home. I come back in the morning. That'd be 1,000 minutes. I don't think overnight is 1,000 minutes. But anyway, point is I can still get it. Those are parameters I could live with. Okay. So we'll do a little bit of review because there's no code here yet. So let me go ahead and open up my code editor. I will insert a module. And let's make a sub-procedure. Let's call it get1. Oh, and we got to remember to add our references. So tools. References. What is it? Microsoft Internet Tools. So tools, references, scroll down to Microsoft. Internet controls, not tools, internet controls. All right, and let's make this so that we're going to pass it the US dot number. US dot as, let's take it as a string. Even though they're all numbers, I'll just take it as a string. I'm not going to do any math with it, so a string should be fine. All right, let's get ourselves set. Oh, I also want to re-import the mod IE tools. Remember, those are the tools that I wrote to make working with Internet Explorer bearable. So file, import file, find where I downloaded mod IE tools last time we were together. Okay, so dim IE as an Internet Explorer. If attach is from mod IE tools. If attach IE equals false, then, so if we're not able to attach to an instance of Internet Explorer, then we want to open one up. Set IE equal to a new Internet Explorer. And then let's go ahead and make it visible. IE.visible equals true. Okay. Now, because I am requiring a parameter to be given to this, I just can't run this. If I hit play, it's going to say, what do you want to play? I can't just play anything. Because, right, I've got to give it this value, so let me go ahead and give myself my sub runner. My Acme sub runner. It's going to call get1, and it's going to pass it. We'll just pass it the Duke Brothers Trucking Ltd. Okay. Now, I'm going to want to go ahead and build the URL using that, well, you see what we're doing, right? I'm calling get1, I'm passing in a value of that US Department of Transportation number, so it'll come in as this variable. And so now let me go ahead and give myself a URL variable. So dim URL as a string, URL equals something concatenated with the US dot. All right, now I got to go figure out what that URL is going to be. So I'm going to come back over here. So I've come to this location. I'm going to paste in the Duke's number and search. By the way, could I, with what we've learned so far, could I find this particular control and then plop the number in here, find the search button, and click the search button and wait for that page to refresh? I totally could do that. That's the stuff we learned how to do on Monday. But let's just click the search button and see, is there any shortcut up here? When you look at this page, what do you see that makes you go, oh, that's going to be easier? Yeah, the dot number is right here. In fact, all this other stuff, I don't think we need most of it. So, and MC equals nothing, submit equals search, I don't need that. Dot number, I happen to know, I've kind of eliminated these one at a time. You know which ones I need and don't need? The only two that you need are these parameters. It is it's the CN equals, no, it's the search equals 1, and US dot equals whatever US dot is. I am going to copy that because it may change it when I actually go there. Oh yeah, there it sticks. So that's still bringing up my Duke Brothers trucking. From here, I'm going to have to find this link and then follow this link because that's where the information is that I need. Here's where I'm going to pick up the telephone number and the fax number. They're right here. That's what I'm after. I got to get that for 990 different trucking companies. Okay, so that's the URL that I was after. Right there. HTTPS AIFMSCA.gov, whatever. Oh, and I don't need the US dot, of course, there because I'm concatenating that on with whatever was passed into the function. So once I've got that URL specified, I should be able to now say IE.navigate to and give it URL to navigate and then wait for IE. This now should navigate us to the page that has the link to the Duke Brothers information. By the way, if we follow that link, we'll notice the Department of Transportation number is gone. It's not in this URL. There's some other internal identifier, but it's not the public number that we have access to. So we are going to have to do it in two steps. We're going to go to the results of the search page. We'll find the link there, and then we'll follow that link automatically. And we'll do that in 9 minutes. Questions? Okay, I'm going to run this, and hopefully it just brings that page up for us in Internet Explorer. Looks great. So here's Internet Explorer. We've got the Duke Brothers trucking here. All right. Now, the truth is, we could do this using the same stuff that we learned on Monday, but I want to introduce to you a new idea. So when we were working with finding the different tags, we'd have to actually go kind of tag by tag and look for it. Another way to think about this is to just look at the source and just treat the source like it's a text file. After all, the HTML file that the server sends is just a text file. So if we could just parse the text, that'd be pretty good. And so I've given you some tools that will make it kind of easy for parsing the text. I should be able to see this a little bit easier over here if I come to Chrome. So I want to be able to find out how I can, oh no, I got to go back one. I'm trying to find this link right here. So I'm just going to press Control-U here in Chrome, which will bring up the source of this page. Control+, let me zoom in a bit here. And let me just look for Duke. How do you spell it? D-U, there it is, D-U-E-C-K. So my question is, what could I search? Of course, I can't just search for Duke Brothers because I don't know what's going to be on that page every time. But what is there that's just unique about this text that I think might be able to find this URL for me. And I'm looking right here and I say, look, if it says href equals searchdetails.asp, or maybe just searchdetails.asp, let me take a look. Maybe that will get me to the information that I need. Oh yeah, one of one. This is only one place. So if when I get to this page, which is the search results, if I just look for what says search details, I should be able to pull in the URL. That's what I'm after. That's the link that I need to be able to follow. So I'll get that, format that as the URL, and make another request with my browser. So let's go ahead and do it. To do this the way that I'm going to show you, you'll need to download that parser.cls file from Learning Suite. So I'm going to go ahead and do a file import file and open parser.cls. Now, mod IE tools is BAS. It's just a regular basic Visual Basic module. CLS is a class module. It's a little bit different. We're not going to see how to create these in class. They're not too hard to do. We just don't have time to do it, to do everything. But what this is, a definition of an object. We've created objects, by going and doing tools, references, finding the object library that we want to create the objects from. This is an object that's actually created in VBA. You could go and look at this, and most of this stuff is stuff you'd be able to understand, pretty straightforward. Remove white space. Let me see one here. Move to. We'll see how to use this one today. Move to is just, it's calling single move to. This is just an implementation of in-string. It's just the normal in-string. We're trying to find one string inside of another, and it has some other, kind of padding built around it. And so this is just a collection of functions that I have written to help parse text, specifically thinking about HTML source text. So now that I have imported the class module, I can create a variable of that type. Dim, I'll just call it p1 as parser. And then I'll go ahead and bind on to that. That just creates a variable that can refer to a parser. Set p1 equal to new parser. That will create the object and then bind it on to the p1 variable. So now I have properties and methods that are built in for my parser that let me do some stuff. The first thing I'm going to do, after I've got the page, so I've wait for IE. Let me put a stop in here so as I'm working I don't run past the end. So now I'm going to say p1.position, that's the first property we need to know, position equals 1. You can think of this as like being a text editor. You got a text editor open and you say, search for something, it's going to find the next occurrence of whatever you looked for. And then if you say search again, it's going to find the next one of that. And so what the position does is it says, where are you searching from? I want to know someplace that you're searching from. By putting the position to 1, we're saying the next time we do a search, we want to start from the beginning of what we have here. Oh, you know what else we want to do? We actually have to put some text in the parser to work with. So parser has a property called text. So p1.text equals ie.document.body.outer HTML. We're taking the body of the document and we're saying, just give us all that HTML and put it into the parser so that the parser can work with it. Now I want to say find that, what was it called? Search results, forgot. Search details.asp. So the method is called move to. So I'm going to say p1.move to, and I'm going to move to search details.asp. Let me just go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and run, I'm going to run right up to this point right here. All right, so I should be able to look at P1's position, and right now it's 0. Oh, it's 0 just because it hasn't been set. I think that the lowest legal value is actually 1. So I'll set it to 1, Shift F8. I'll ask what the position is. It's now 1. Now I'm going to move to search details. I'm going to try to find search details in the source of that page. Shift F8. And now I'm going to ask what the position is. Position is 13,336. So in that whole page, I said start at the bottom, find where it says search details. It's found at the 13,336th character. That's where search detail is. And so it moves the current position indicator to that location. Well, now I'm ready to bring back everything else. In fact, how much do I want to bring back? I want to bring back from wherever I am. By the way, it moves the current position indicator to the end of what I just searched for. So I'm going to bring back everything up until this quote. So let me come back here and I'm going to follow this. So the URL that I want is actually everything right up to search details. And then I'm going to pull off everything from that up to the end of the quote. So I'm just going to change, at this point, I'm going to change URL. URL is now equal to that URL concatenated with another function from the parser, p1.getText. Now, getText takes an argument. It's going to work. It's going to operate on the text that's a part of the parser object, and it's going to work from wherever the start position currently is in the object. And it's going to, how much text is it going to bring? It's going to bring back until I find the character that I specify here. So I'm going to put a quote terminated string. And if I was looking to go until it found a capital X, I'd put an X there, but I'm looking for a quote. To put a quote inside a quote terminated string, I have to put 2 quotes. So it looks a little bit weird. It's quote, 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 quote. But that says just pull back all the text until you find the quote. Let me go ahead and do that, and we'll just see what URL we've gotten. That's the URL that I'm about to try to get. Now, this is a little quirk of working with Internet Explorer. It has encoded the ampersand in the URL with HTML encoding. So without going into the details of what that is, let me just show you how to back it out. URL equals replace. Look at URL, look for ampersand, AMP semicolon. Replace it with just an ampersand. And that will give us a properly formatted URL. And so now we've got just the URL that we're trying to run. And so now I should be able to point my browser at, in fact, navigate to URL, wait for IE, same thing. And that should take me to the Duke page. So I'm not really sure that I wasn't already there. So let me go ahead and move back. And I'll do those 2 parts again. And now it has brought me to the page that has the details. And I could use the same tools to go figure out where's the I could probably search for telephone and then adjust from where that position is to pull in the telephone number and the fax number, write it back to the worksheet. So that's the parser. A little rushed, but we did have a good discussion on the legal implications of doing this. That gets you introduced to the parser. And that should get us going. Questions here? The parser is not going to show up on an exam anywhere. That's just a tool for you to be able to use when you're working with internet text. All right, thanks for coming. Class dismissed.